Jayson was a member of the the Contemporary Eras Baseball Committee, main contribution 1980s onward. There were 8 players on that ballot. That's the one that Jeff Kent got elected to the Hall of Fame, and only Jeff Kent. It caused a level of controversy. It's why we wanted Jayson on. But the exchange when you're on that committee is there's a certain omerta to it, right? Like the
Good
mafia.
word, Joel.
Like you can't. There's certain things you can't speak about that happen in that room and how you voted. So the way I want to open this up, Jayson, is there is people know our larger committee, right? That all three of us are part of the hundreds. Will vote by the end of this month, and we'll know by the third or so week in January who's elected into the Hall of Fame by the Baseball Writers Association. Tell us about the function, how it works with those 16 people to get to Jeff Kent.
Yeah, I apologize that I can't tell you specifically about what happened in the room and how we voted. I honestly don't even know how anybody else in the room voted. But I can tell you that I've done this a couple times now. I consider it to be an incredible honor. As both you know, I love the Hall of Fame. I care about the Hall of Fame. I understand the impact on lives and on baseball fans of voting for the Hall of Fame. And so I take that role going into that room as a member of that committee extremely seriously and prepare as thoroughly as you can imagine. And so the makeup of the committee, at least this year, was nearly half was players. There were 7 Hall of Fame players in the room. Then we had 6 longtime Major League executives in the room, plus myself, my friend and coworker at The Athletic, Tyler Kepner, and Steve Hurt, who is currently with Stats and formerly with the Elias Sports Bureau, one of the foremost baseball historians on earth. He's now done this 14 times. And so let me try to tell you how I consider my role in that group. I look at things obviously different than not just other Hall of Fame voters, but obviously how different than how players and executives look at the Hall of Fame. And so I consider my job to frame the case for each player. We consider the 8 players in the ballot alphabetically. A name gets thrown out there, and basically people look at us, me and Steve and Tyler. And so we start talking and try to frame the case, the historic impact of that player. And then my favorite part of being on those committees is to then look at those Hall of Fame players and say, this is why I think we as writers never elected this player. What did you guys see? And I mean, some of the perspective that you get back is incredible, Joel. I love that part of it. We have executives in the room. You can say to those executives, when you were a GM and this guy was playing, how did you look at him? We could say, who would you have rather had in your team, this candidate or that candidate? And that's really how we get there. And it honestly is a fantastic experience in terms of all of that.
I berated you in the hallway. I apologize for that because I was dissatisfied with the result. Although I did vote for Jeff Kent ultimately in the last several years, so I get it. I understand that. But certainly in New York, we were very disappointed that Don Mattingly didn't make it. A guy I voted for every single time. Same with I voted for Murphy every single time that he was on the ballot as well. So how do you feel? Because we heard when it was announced on MLB Network, you could even hear groans in. And I felt bad for Jeff Kent for the first time in my life, but in the lobby, even the lobby, they're not all New Yorkers. I know we're in Florida, so many New Yorkers probably. But how did you feel about the final result? Were you dissatisfied too? Because I know you voted for several of those players.
Yeah, I can't really comment too specifically about Jeff Kent and whether even I voted for him in the room.
But I
But
mean, the fact there was only
I can,
one. Also, the
yeah,
fact there was only one too.
right.
Yeah.
So let me try to do this way. First off, I voted for Jeff Kent for 10 years too. I look at him as a historically significant player at his position. You know, he was the guy who hit more home runs than any second baseman who ever played baseball, drove in more runs than any second baseman who ever played baseball, or at least since RBIs became an official stat. He has the highest slugging percentage of any second baseman in the last 100 years. I've written all of this a million times, and was a big part of winning. And him and Barry Bonds on those teams in San Francisco. So Jeff Kent had enough historical impact as a player that I know there's a lot of furor. I don't think the furor should be that we elected Jeff Kent. As I interpret it, it's much the way you just described it, John. The frustration out there is why only Jeff Kent? Why Jeff Kent, not Barry Bonds, for that matter? Why Jeff Kent and not the feel-good Hall of Fame stories we could have written with Murphy and Mattingly? I completely understand the frustration. And I wish I could tell you more about what happened in the room and why Jeff Kent got elected and other guys didn't. What I would suggest is what I've told everybody. Look at the way we voted and try to think it through and think about how the people in that room processed that ballot. An incredibly loaded ballot where you could easily make a case for all 8 players on it. And we only had 3 spots. Hall of Fame voting is difficult. When we do it in the writers' election, it might even be more difficult when you're looking at a ballot with only 3 spots and that many great players.